What's up, everybody? Episode 14 of the No Chance Podcast. As always, your hosts, Ryan
and Nate.
And we definitely want to give a big shout out to all our listeners. It is Thanksgiving tomorrow, so we are very thankful for every listen that we've gotten in the past. How long has it been? About 3 months?
14
4 months?
weeks.
14 weeks. That? It's about 4 weeks in every month. I'd say about...
We're not good at math.
Close to 3.5 months. Yeah. We're almost there.
Yeah. Shout out to you guys.
January starts the new year, so you know we're going to be putting out a lot more content. We got a cool new video on the way. We're kind of going over, the websites we like to look at, the sites,
We're going to be also doing like a lot of editorial videos, like lookbook videos, stuff like that. Yep. So stay tuned for that.
And maybe merch in the near future.
Maybe merch by the end of the year, going into the new year.
Let us get some money first.
Yeah.
Please. And then hopefully our real supporters, decide to.
We might hit you with some sample friends and family pieces.
Maybe some stickers might be soon, to be honest.
That's super easy.
Stickers and keychains would be
knock
tight.
That out.
So yeah, I mean, we actually what we want to do is we want to recap a couple of the things that we've been sort of talking about, just like some normal shit that we've been talking about for the past couple days. I know a lot of people, and if you've never listened to our podcast before, this is something that you could probably relate to, is this really weak Off-White Nike release that they did on Sneakers app. And literally everywhere that they've released this shoe, it was like weak in the sense of, well, I guess because I didn't get it, that's why it was weak. But weak in terms of how it was how it ran. The platform that it was released on was terrible. And also, I mean, there's a lot of negative sentiment from us and, consumers all around the country that kind of complain about how the sort of release went. So let's sort of break it down, because it is kind of, the process was nice. Like the idea of how they were going to do it was cool.
Like having it done on sneakers, so it was more accessible for everybody in a sense.
Everybody can download it, iOS and Android. They had all 10 shoes. Well, they had all 9 shoes on there.
Yeah, aside from the
Converse Chucks.
Yeah, the Chucks. Those released in early 2018, I believe.
Yeah. And then, so basically how they did it is they tiered the shoes. So they had maybe like 2 shoes at a time, and then 1 shoe, and it was like every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So from 10 to 12, they were releasing the entire collection. It sucked, to say the least, and I didn't hit on any of them. I only really wanted about 1 or 2 shoes anyway.
Yeah, which ones were you going after?
I was trying to get the Air Forces. That was the one I was actually going to wear.
Yeah.
I've never owned like a pair of low Air Forces, and this one just looked like so sick, and I was like, I could do that. And the Prestos. Those are probably the only 2 that I really cared about. The rest I just wanted to resell.
Wow.
You just have to. What are you talking about?
That's very true.
It's the holiday season. I'm trying to get gifts from my parents.
Unlike Ryan, and unlike a lot of people, I was very fortunate. I was lucky enough to get a pair. I actually was able to get the Blazers in my size.
How did you feel when you got those?
Dude, I was so hyped. It's funny because I was leaving for school, and I was about to be late. And then I pulled over at a Starbucks, got my coffee.
No.
And then
you were doing this in the car?
Yeah, and I ran back to my car, checked out, and then I was like, it said pending, and then I was like, all right, whatever, hope for the best. Drove to class.
No way.
Soon as I hopped out the car, I saw the charge on my credit card for $140.
No way.
And I was so hyped.
Dude,
yeah, I was
that's so
hyped.
crazy. Like, I was in the comfort of, literally, my work office, sitting there. I was in no rush. I wasn't stressing about anything, and I was just trying, and I didn't even get the whole pending process. You were driving and rushing and doing all this shit, and you still got them?
Yeah, I was in my car, literally.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's also coming from the guy who decided to type an entire essay that was due the night of while we were in the club. So kudos to you. That's legendary.
Submitted
for sure.
it on time. So.
But that brings up kind of a bigger question. Definitely not the topic of this episode. The topic of this episode, for anybody listening, is actually going to be about some of our favorite brands, the brands that are sort of bred out of the USA.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of classic American, like, workwear pieces, athletically inspired pieces, all that good stuff.
And we'll get into the reason why we decided to talk about this topic for this episode, which is a great story. But one of the things that I want to cover in regards to this whole sort of, off-white drop on sneakers is just the climate of just releases in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's starting to make me upset. Not that I'm chasing after every release that ever comes out, but I think that there's a huge disconnect with these brands and their customer base.
Yeah.
And obviously there's going to be people that are upset because they can't get the shoes. That's like of course, ingrained into the sneaker culture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But what's a way, just like a short bit of how they can sort of solve it, in the short term? What do you think?
I don't know. Honestly, like, I think an online raffle would be the best way.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like an online release like on Sneakers app, but an online raffle for an in-store pickup or an in-store release. I think that would be the best way.
Yeah.
I think that's just like the fairest method out of all of them,
Yeah.
Like, obviously people are having issues on apps, on the website, things like that.
Dealing with bots.
Yeah. Like their Wi-Fi may not be working, like all this, whatever. But I think that's like the most democratic way to go about it.
I think so too. I think something that's less instantaneous, like a immediate release where it's literally 30 seconds and you're sort of fucked, and having an online raffle that sort of spans the week before the release.
Yeah. And
then sort of a couple days before the shoe actually releases in the store, you choose the winners. And at that point, it's not really, there's no real pressure. It's just like, I'm going to give it all I have, and hopefully it works out,
Yeah. I mean, I think the raffle system is as fair as it's going to get, honestly. Yeah. Like, I feel like with an online release, it's always going to be about who has, like, the fastest connection, who can type in their information the fastest. Yeah. Whatever, like, whether or not a person has a bot, like, all this stuff, Whereas, like, a raffle, you may not have as good a chance of, like, getting it, but at least the chances are even with everybody else, like the playing field's even. So
no, and that makes sense, but I'm still gonna have a bad taste in my mouth from the release. At least you get to sleep soundly at night knowing that you got a pair that arrives on Friday. The raffle was literally not the raffle. Down? It was literally the release was what?
You're gonna tell people my address ago? Too?
Pacifica, California. Whoa, I don't know the zip code.
Take it easy.
So let's get into our topic. Actually, let me tell you the story of the reason why this is our topic for the day.
Yeah, go ahead, tell
them. Nate introduced me to, the Dickies social media site. So Dickies, what's it called? Dickies Life Official. What is it called?
Yeah. Well, so basically what happened was, let's start from the beginning. We went to like a surplus store. Yeah. To check out some like workwear stuff, get some pants, whatever. I happened to get like a pair of pants, and then I posted a photo of Instagram of me wearing the pants, and Dickies actually reached out to me and asked me if they could use my photo for their website, for their social media, whatever, and I agreed to it. And then
did they ever use it?
I don't know, I haven't checked, but
me neither.
Like basically what happened was that we came up with this idea of like, hey, why don't we try to reach out to them? Why not reach out to them and see if they want to, partner up and maybe do something.
And even in the sense of what we were trying to do was like, hey, like we think that we could be great brand advocates for, your clothing. We wear your clothing. We're going to continue wearing your clothing. It's obviously cheaper than a lot of the other clothing that's out there.
A lot like
a lot more
really
durable.
Well made.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a big thing about made in U.S.A. type clothing to begin with. But we wanted to, get some sort of promotional stuff going on the store. Maybe promo codes for their shop. Maybe like a banner behind us, a floor mat. You know, I saw that's tight.
Yeah.
Or even clothing. Like I could wear, this could be a Dickies beanie. You never know.
Just don't turn your head. Don't let them see the label.
But anyway, so we had reached out to them, and I'd say in less than a week, maybe a little bit more.
Like in a few days, honestly.
We got a response, and I was like, holy shit. And it was asking us for a presentation on our podcast. Now, once I saw that, I was so fucking lost. I was like, what do
They
you
weren't.
mean?
They were very vague on what presentation meant. It literally said presentation,
a PowerPoint,
and listenership,
a video, and I was like, okay. We brainstormed and we were like, all right, how are we gonna put something like this together? So we actually didn't start on it for the first week. We were just like, yeah, we'll get to it eventually.
Yeah.
And then when we finally sort of thought it out, we were like, okay, let's put a couple of like hot takes of our last 3 episodes. Let's sort of introduce our viewership and sort of how we're growing, because we are fucking growing in terms of listenership. We're averaging almost 200 a week now.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's super huge. And I look at it every day to see how many listens we get in a given day, because I don't know, that number just is important to me. But I know like in given time it's gonna be millions, hundreds of thousands, whatever.
Millions, yeah.
Very, very, very possible.
Yeah, basically what we did is that we're kind of treating it as like a pitch that you would do if you were going into like an office and you had like an idea or had a product you were trying to sell. So basically, we just set up a presentation that we thought would sort of mimic that. So it was almost like it was kind of like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I'd say so. Slides accompanied with a nice little reel.
Little
It
video
was
reel.
fire. It was fire. It was really good, and it sort of captured the essence of our podcast. Just a little bit of our personalities, a little bit of us preaching,
why we do this.
Yeah, some good tips for our listeners, and we sent it off. And in about 3 days or so, we got a response, and it was like, yo, this is amazing. We love the podcast. We love what you guys are doing. Unfortunately, and that was the only thing that stuck out when I read the email. It said, unfortunately, we're based out of Europe. Yeah,
because apparently it was like their lifestyle brand that Dickies has that's based in Europe. I think they're based out of the UK. So,
and unless you did some real like detective research, you'd have to look through each one of their posts to be like, that's a European skate shop. That's a European artist.
I mean, their link in their bio links to
no
the
way
UK website. Yeah, you didn't see that?
God damn it!
Didn't I tell you this before we sent it?
I felt like you did.
I texted you. I was like, hey, isn't that their European brand lifestyle?
Besides
brand?
the point. So I decided to just tag all of the Dickies social media accounts on the DM anyway. So we got a response in an email, a very positive reaction, but they were based out of Europe. So that sucks. But the comment that they made that was the highlight of probably like the past few months was, we would love to ship you stuff.
Yeah.
But we unfortunately don't ship to the States, which is also a big bummer.
Yeah.
Because a lot of brands based out of Europe houses their shit in the U.S. But other than that, we were like, okay, cool. Could we talk to a rep that's based out of, the United States? Because if you guys love us in Europe, you guys can probably sell us to somebody in the States. So I was like, all right, cool. And still haven't gotten a response. It's been about 3 days.
Wait, so what happened? Did they email our presentation to somebody else, or were we supposed to do that ourselves?
I was looking for an email for a representative in the U.S. Mm-hmm. I was looking for a response to the email that I sent to them asking for one.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten a single thing back from them. Damn. So what I might do is I might end up spamming them again, like a good, hello, how are you? I don't know if they celebrate Thanksgiving out there. But
no, they don't.
Okay, well then I'll probably send it tomorrow.
Do you even know what Thanksgiving is?
I do. Damn, relax. They probably have another term for it or something.
No, they don't. It's not.
Anyways, I'm gonna use your transition and just say, anyways,
whatever.
But yeah, so the sort of preface or the sort of point that I'm getting at is that Dickies is a brand that we sort of, I don't know, we've always had a sort of attachment to. You more so than I have. Mm-hmm. I've always known about the brand. I've always seen the brand around.
Yeah.
My style a little bit before, obviously, the present day was a little bit more like everything was less baggy. So I always thought of Dickies as being more flowy, and it didn't really rock with, the things that I was wearing. So I never actually purchased them.
Yeah.
But they were always on the top of my mind of core values and quality clothing for a pretty affordable price.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I gravitate towards like brands like Dickies or Carhartt or Levi's or whatever is that they're classic American brands, one.
Yeah.
And two, they make really good products. So I know every time I purchase something from them that it's going to last for a long time. I'm going to get a lot of wears out of it.
For sure.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. And they're super easy to style because they're basically staple pieces. So.
Yeah. And one of the greatest things about these sort of core brands, and I'll ask you this question after this, but it's something about clothing like that being readily available no matter where you go, and not having to worry about being sold out. That makes it a bit more appealing.
And I think that's definitely a good point. I think for me it appeals to me because I think I get a lot more enjoyment out of putting together something that everybody can get their hands on and styling it in my own way, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to getting maybe like some sort of like designer piece and that single piece making the statement, you know?
It's like taking a basic ingredient and like
transforming
anybody has and transforming it into like
it's
this.
It's like taking some basic ingredients you find like in your kitchen and turning it into like a really good meal. Like you'll get way more fulfillment out of that.
Some fucking ramen.
Yeah.
And you just put all your spices in it and it's like, damn, like this is crazy.
Yeah, as opposed to like something that's, I don't know, that's like really, you already know is going to be really good.
You already know like you're going to spend like, and this is a good example is we went to that workwear store that Nate was referring to earlier. And I was looking for just some basic blue chinos, right?
Yeah.
And I'd been looking at, sites ranging from, APC to what some of the other ones. Even Nike has some good skate chinos, but I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to be wearing navy chinos. I only need them for like a particular outfit I had in mind. So why should I spend, $60, $70, $100+ for a pair of pants that I know I'm going to wear like once or twice? So when you said like, Dickies makes a slimmer cut, and I was like, sick. Like I'll try it out. I knew the bigger ones I just couldn't mess with at all. They were way too big. But these ones were like right up my alley, and it was enough to work with to the point where spending $25 for a pair of pants and a very durable pair of pants, dude, I was sold for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Dickies like work pants are pretty much all I wear now.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Like the navy ones that I got, the first ones that I got, I've worn like for weeks now. Like I just got these. I just got this black pair, which I'm wearing right now. Shout out to the 29-inch inseam, dude, coming in so clutch for that cropped kind of.
That's
look.
a less of a cuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Less cuff. It looks better.
But I don't know.
I think in regards to just sort of, I guess Dickies is one of the definite core made in U.S.A.
I mean, they're probably not made in the USA
or
anymore.
like original.
I mean,
born in. Okay, let's say born in the USA.
Yeah.
So there's something about these born in the USA brands, a traditional brand like a Levi's, a Dickies,
Carhartt,
a
Davis,
Champion. There's something about those brands that keeps an essence of like America, like a true like America, like a true American feel to them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other brands that were born in America, like think of like a Huff or a Benny Gold, or obviously Stussy was born in America. But there's a certain vibe you get from these sort of workwear brands that you don't get from these other brands that were born. Maybe it's encapsulating a certain part of America or a certain feel of America, but it's a totally different feel.
I think for me the appeal is that brands like this have a very like proud, like do it yourself sort of attitude to them, For me that really drew me in because I'm like the type of person that I think likes to do stuff on their own, likes to do things without asking for help. Yeah. Because it's like I said, it's more fulfilling that way, at least to me.
For sure.
So I think that's why these brands resonate with me so much.
You know what I think of when I think of like these brands? I think of like 1980s Detroit. There's something about like a rugged, like hardworking mindset that I feel like is a part of these brands. It lives inside of some of these brands.
Yeah.
And why, like when you wear them, you almost feel like kind of indestructible in a sense. Like if you wear a pair of Dickies, you know, like if you fall or if you got hit by a car, they're still be in good condition. You know what I mean? There's like a certain,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
a
that's
cool
a good point.
stigma that's attached to it that makes you feel a bit more. It's
I don't know.
something about
it kind of puts you at ease. It kind of makes you more comfortable because you know that, like, I could go through hell and back with, you know, these pants or whatever, like this work shirt, and, you know, I'm gonna come out and all my shit's gonna be okay, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's another part of the appeal.
And there's another part, like I explained earlier, about like mass availability.
Yeah.
That makes it seem like I can fuck these up and know I can go to the workwear store
and
after
get another pair,
the same pair, you know? And if we were to really look at it from a broader scope, it's almost like when you go to a McDonald's or In-N-Out, right? They're designed a particular way to where anytime you walk in, and let's use In-N-Out as a prime example because this is where I'd learned about it. You walk into any In-N-Out, you feel like you're home. So you can go into an In-N-Out in, you know, middle of California, wherever, walk in and feel like you're in, you know, your hometown. It's the way that it's designed.
Yeah, because they all look exactly the same. Yeah.
Right? There's something about like that. It's like an American core value to make yourself feel like warm and homey and like, I don't know, something about being proud about where you're from. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And it's, you know what to expect. There's going to be no surprises there.
No frills.
No frills.
No frills. I feel like that's a statement that they use in some of their advertisements, or maybe it's just something that they use in like consistent like American-made advertisements. But that's like a phrase that speaks very closely to some of these brands. It's like, dude, we're not about like the bullshit. Like we don't need all that extra stuff. Like we're this and that's enough. Like we don't need to add on a bunch of other stuff to make it. There's no need to it like advance. Yeah. Or there's no need, not necessarily advance, but there's no need to innovate within these brands.
Yeah, and I think that's another good point, is that the appeal there is that there's no real sense that they need to adapt in order to fit in. Like they can stand the test of time.
That's so true, because you look at somebody, and I'm going to use this as an example because you found a good picture of her, but Christina Pack was wearing a pair of like, were they like powder blue?
They were like
they were a nice blue color. I feel like that's like one of one, because I've never seen those before. Yeah, it was a crazy blue.
Yeah,
but she was wearing a pair of Dickies, and they looked so dope. Like the way that it looked so dope. And it just made me think, it's like these brands don't go to people. They don't push their product on people. People come to the product. You know what I mean? Like it's that great of a product that solidified in clothing and streetwear and fashion, whatever.
Yeah.
That people just come to it.
They almost
whenever they feel like
they
it.
almost don't need to market it.
Exactly.
You already know, like we were saying, you already know what you're gonna get, so there's no point in trying to convince you otherwise to get it. You know what I'm saying?
And that's a crazy sort of aspect that's kind of hard to sort of grow into as a brand. Like you don't just start a brand nowadays and think, you know what, I'm about these values and these values and these values. I don't gotta do shit. People are gonna like my shit regardless.
Yeah.
The only brand that's ever done that wasn't, you know, these sort of typical like brands coming from the 60s, 70s, and 80s is a Supreme, and I hate talking about it, but they have the fuck you money, they have the I can do whatever I want sort of aspect.
They're kind of like the streetwear equivalents, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to put it that way.
So in terms of just sort of these born in America brands, if you can choose one, and you can only wear one, because they are very similar in terms of what they release. So I'm sure that they're kind of competitors in itself.
No, yeah, for sure.
Champion less so, because it's more of like an athletic, athletic.
More of like a sportswear inspired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you could choose between a Carhartt, a Dickies, a Ben Davis, and sort of give me your sort of what your favorite appeals are of each of them, because obviously they all release chinos.
Yeah.
But there's a different sort of feel to all three of those.
Yeah. Honestly, I think either like a Dickies or I think a Carhartt like work in progress would be like my top picks. The only like I say Carhartt work in progress because they're still true to their whole the essence of workwear and things like that, like classic American silhouettes, things like that. But they also put a nice spin on it and kind of put like a more refined touch to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. They know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
I said that in the most like polite way.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like a Carhartt. So, okay, here's a question then. What is the difference between a Carhartt and a Carhartt work in progress?
I think Carhartt is more geared towards the working man, as in somebody, I don't want to use the term like blue collar, but maybe somebody who works in more of like a hands-on field. So maybe like a carpenter, painter, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas I think work in progress is more so geared towards people who just want clothing for lifestyle purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I definitely think the same thing. I think the way I look at it the same way. Carhartt is for the working man.
Yeah, it's performance versus lifestyle.
Exactly. And then Carhartt work in progress is for the guy who wants to pretend they look like the working man.
Not necessarily pretend.
Or they like the appeal.
They appreciate like a good product, let's say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But think about it like this. Like I look at it the same way. When I wear a pair of Dickies, I almost want to have that same persona of that really cool looking mechanic.
You want to go like
no, I don't want to be a mechanic.
You want like a pickaxe and like
I don't want to be a mechanic, but I want to have that sort of ruggedness. There's a certain feeling that emits from that. I want to wear these long Dickies shorts because, fucking.
Are you trying to compensate?
Hispanic culture looks cool. You know what I mean? Okay. Like there's something about that like wearing it almost feels like not necessarily a costume.
It's 2017, man. You don't have to overtly display your masculinity. It's okay. You can be who you are.
Now I'm saying, man, it's just a certain like feeling you get from clothing nowadays, and not a lot of brands are able to do that. So why not a Dickies then? What is it about them that kind of not necessarily you're not choosing them, but what is it about their appeal that sort of makes you put them on the back burner for a second?
I mean, obviously, like I love their like, stuff. Like I wear it constantly, but I don't know. It's just like obviously I don't work in construction or whatever, things like that. Yeah. So I feel like their products aren't necessarily geared towards me as a customer. And that's the only real reason, Yeah. Like, I feel like their selection isn't necessarily tailored to somebody who's into style or whatever. Yeah. It's more so about functionality.
I think they do their best to, like the same way that Carhartt decided to release a work in progress. I think all these brands are kind of getting it that they have to make a bit of an adjustment for the people like us that aren't, in the field basically.
Yeah.
And they need to accommodate people like us. So a work in progress or even a Dickies skate sub brand is something that they have to have. Like they need to be in touch with the culture because they're not. You can make a small advancement in your brand by creating these small little brands, like more niche type clothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean it's not like the whole streetwear workwear thing is a new sort of relationship. It's been going on forever.
Not. Yeah,
like. Skaters have been wearing Dickies since skateboarding was invented, or
Carhartt beanies.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time.
Like hip hop heads has been wearing like Carhartt.
Yeah.
Shit forever.
Vests and like just everything.
Like just watch 8 Mile.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Watch 8 Mile.
That's why I mentioned Detroit. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, that's a really good point. So okay, let's talk about something that a brand that we both really, really like. We love everything that they're doing, except for one of the things that they're doing, which we'll mention a little bit later. But let's talk about Champion.
Okay.
Champion, I mean, shit. Can you go wrong? Probably not.
No, I mean, I feel like Champion invented the hoodie. So obviously they have some tenure in this whole sportswear, like, athleisure game.
Definitely.
No, I think Champion is such like a classic American brand that maybe like 10, 20 years from now, it'll still be in style, or it'll come back around again and be in style again.
Let's look at the sort of influence Champion has had within the past. Shit, what's the date? They've had like a crazy influence within the past year
maybe
and a half.
Maybe like 2 years even.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years
It's
even.
insane how sort of it all starts with, you know, I mean, if you look at some of the smaller brands, some of your guys' favorite brands, some of them are using Champion blanks.
Yeah.
They've, you know, decided to wholesale a lot of their stuff and turn it into a basic, which is now something that people use as the platforms for some of the biggest brands out there nowadays. And even some of the biggest brands. I know that, who was it? I think the Hundreds just recently did a Champion, or no, Stussy just did a Champion
Off-White did
collab.
one too.
Off-White did a collab.
Everybody's collaborating with Champion.
They understand the sort of, like we say, the stigma behind the brand.
Like
they
the
want
storied history behind the brand.
Core values that Champion emits from its clothing.
Yeah.
And they use it. I mean, the quality is not up to par with, you know, some of the $200, $300 hoodies.
I would say it's pretty up there, but
reverse weave definitely is.
Yeah, reverse weave. But
when you get, you know, heavyweight cotton and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of the brand itself, there's a huge cult following with it. I mean,
for sure.
What did we do? Like, what was it? Was it a year ago? About a year and a half ago? When we were literally like picking.
No, that was earlier this year. That was like maybe springtime, before summer.
Really?
Yeah, that was like maybe March, February.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so basically Ryan and I did a lot of thrifting. Like earlier this year, we used to go to Goodwill a lot, do a lot of thrifting, sell clothes, stuff like that. And like some of the pieces that we would be most hyped to find would be like Champion reverse weave sweaters or like vintage Champion shirts, Champion whatever. Just because it's so nostalgic, I think, for a lot of people.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
And it, like, once you pick up like a vintage like Champion reverse weave, to me it's just like
it speaks.
Yeah,
it speaks like a story.
Yeah,
kinda.
like somebody was wearing this during like their college years
Yo,
or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
no, totally.
Like this piece has been through hell and back, and now like I'm holding it here in my hands. Like it tells a story almost, you know.
It's so crazy to think that like it didn't even matter what graphics you were picking up
No,
because you were getting like what, like University of California, Berkeley. You were getting like
Stanford one,
a nursing one,
I have a Harvard one,
a Harvard Medical School. Is that it? Something like that.
I think I have like a, I don't know.
You were getting
like
some weird,
one.
like a lot of different schools.
Yeah.
And it was okay because of the fact that it was the Champion hoodie. Like it didn't matter, and they do the fucking like the feel of those things. They just feel so good.
They're like so sturdy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
super sturdy.
Like you just feel so comfortable in them because it's like, I don't know, and they look so much better when they're beat up.
They
dude.
do.
Yeah.
The nice little like tears around here, the little like fraying around the neck and the cuffs. But okay, let's talk about that then, because vintage is huge.
Yeah.
Champion is a huge part of the new vintage culture. You look at every sort of, you know, secondhand streetwear store like around to, you know, it's being picked everywhere at all the Goodwills. Everyone's sort of searching for them. Now they're available at your local Urban Outfitters.
Yeah, and we're not talking about just like the newer stuff. Like Urban Outfitters is selling a lot of the vintage pieces too.
A lot.
Which we saw when we went in there one time, and you're like, "Yo, this is."
They had a collection. They had a collection.
Yeah.
It was like a small curated section in the Urban Outfitters in San Francisco that basically, I wish we had fucking video of it, but it was a curation of the vintage shit that we would pick.
Yeah.
For the prices of a brand new sweater.
Yeah.
It's like
we're talking about like $50, $60, $70 for a vintage.
So how do you feel about seeing something that like Champion being, I don't know what the proper word to use. I wouldn't say abused, but sort of exploited. Is that a good word?
Kind of being commodified? Not
commodified,
but
it's sort of like taking one man's trash and making it and selling it back to that man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you threw that away. I'm gonna make it cool, and then I'm gonna try to sell it back to you for even more.
Well, I don't think Urban Outfitters is the one that made it cool. I think it was just the vintage culture, the vintage scene in a sense that brought it back to life. And I think Urban Outfitters, as they usually do. They latch onto it and
They
they commercialize it.
They are latchers.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. How does it make me feel? It makes
when you
me
see it.
It makes me not want to wear Champion anymore because I know it's like commercialized and it's like super trendy now.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. Think something like Champion Champion wasn't meant to be.
Okay, my issue with it is that Champion shouldn't be a trend because it's such an American classic. It's such a staple that it shouldn't be turned into a trend that everybody's going to latch onto for maybe like a few months, and then they're going to sell it at Buffalo Exchange like 6 months from now.
No, that's true.
Like it's almost insulting in that sense, you know?
Wow.
It's kind of like a middle finger
to
that is, the brand because it's, you know.
Think about it like this. When you're in Urban Outfitters, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to the same, in the same section, you're going to find the same product. Right, it never moves. You go in there, you know where the sunglasses are or the glasses, and they never move. They're all usually the same, but it's always the same across every season or whatsoever. Mm-hmm. When you take an item like Champion and you put it in the front part of your store as like the highlight piece, that's where I feel like you said, it's being abused in a sense because you're using Champion as basically a platform to be like, we're in style. We know what's going on. Come shop, the latest Champion stuff because we know you're into it. Rather than keeping it in a section of your store as like, hey, Champion's always going to be stocked here. We don't care if it's in the front showroom. It's going to be right here.
Yeah, and I think people are always going to see dollar signs over a narrative, you know.
Definitely.
At least like corporations and like bigger companies. So I think that's what kind of led to this whole thing. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's almost insulting to a brand like that. It doesn't even have to be Champion. It could be any other brand. It could be like a Carhartt or a Ben Davis or a Levi's or whatever. It's, it's so much more than just a trend. It's a brand with such a deep, rich history that's rooted in like almost like American culture, like society.
Yo, definitely.
Yeah,
I wish we had like movie clips of like anytime we saw like a Champion piece in it. We should look at that. That'd be kind of cool to see in like early movies. But one of the things that I think is super important is I don't think that Champion was meant to be widespread. Like I don't think it was meant to be readily available.
What do you mean?
Like you think about the early 90s when obviously was at, a very big peak in terms of, like the college hoodies and, their basics, the spell out scripts, all those classic pieces that are now being are highly coveted today. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was meant to come into the new 20th century.
What do you mean?
I don't think it was meant to be around at this point right now. I think it was meant to
Oh, you mean like
as a type of wear?
Yeah.
I don't think that was supposed to come here, like now.
Like it was never supposed to have that same longevity.
Exactly. I think the idea of making a sweatshirt or constructing the original sweatshirt or the mesh short, the embroidered logo. I think it was supposed to almost be like the one that started it all, but the one that was never supposed to continue being that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I get
it shouldn't be around right now. Yeah. Not to say that I don't love it or anything like that, but I don't think where we are with streetwear culture and fashion, I don't think it should be here now. I think it was just made to set the precedent, and that's it. Do you kind of get where I'm going?
Yeah, I agree in that.
Because if you look at it,
so basically what you're trying to say is that it should never have been popular up until now. It should never be a mass market thing.
It shouldn't be something that's widespread.
Yeah.
The same way that, if Supreme stayed as one store, it should almost be like that.
Almost like a kind of like a niche brand.
It should only live in that span of, 10, 15 years. And it should be one of those things where it's so hard to come by, it's never remade.
Yeah.
And if you get that that old dingy Harvard sweater. There's a true story behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you look at and here's a good example. When you look at something like a Levi's, you see they always sort of try to showcase the history of the jean, right?
Yeah.
They're one of the creators of the jeans, or basically the creators of the jeans, right?
Not true, but yeah.
And so they try to, highlight every little image they have of the first jean this, the first jean that, the first jean that. Sometimes you don't have to be the creator of something, and also the top dundada of that item.
So, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
So with Champion, I think that they were just meant to, introduce it to the world and have everybody sort of eat off of it and create their own rendition of things. They're basically, think of like T-Pain. T-Pain birthed auto-tune, right?
I mean, put it on the map, like on the main.
He made auto-tune what it is. He's at
least for like hip hop, R&B, shit
exactly.
Like that, yeah.
And then now you have all these rappers and stuff, and then T-Pain falls away. Like, that's fine. He doesn't have to be current right now. He doesn't have to be.
Him creating that sound is enough for him to be relevant.
It's enough.
Not relevant, but at least
revered. It's enough for him to be revered in the world
in the community
of R&B, hip hop, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So people always, pay homage to him.
Mm-hmm.
They always use, for example, they use his style. They use whatever, the same way that a lot of these companies nowadays use their blanks and they use all that. But they don't have to, be in the mix.
They don't have to be at the forefront all the time.
Exactly. There you go.
They're so renowned. They have such a rich history that they don't necessarily have to be in the spotlight 24/7.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I get what you're saying.
And I think that, companies like Urban Outfitters and, well, that's really all it is, because you don't ever really see it being pushed in like some of the small boutique stores, right? It's usually them doing collaborations with it. So say like you would never find Champion blanks in an Undefeated or what's another sort of store that houses a lot of different brands? You wouldn't find it in like a Dover Street Market.
Yeah.
Right? You'd find people using their blanks as it, but you would never find it there. So I think Urban Outfitters is just one of the biggest perpetrators of taking something that is so important to just not even just streetwear. Let's blow this shit up. Let's say just clothing.
Yeah.
It's so important to clothing that when they do that to Champion pieces, it's almost like, man, like it's almost
you're doing
like having
a disservice to it.
Dude, all right, listen to this. It's almost like having like an endangered species in the zoo. Like, it's like, goddamn, like these are the last ones left, and you're really just gonna like do that to them? That's the same feeling I get when I see Champion in Urban Outfitters. Is that kind of like overblown of a over dramatic
or like
reference?
Okay, no. I think this is a better analogy. It's like having a killer whale at SeaWorld.
Yes.
Like it's such a great creature that you don't need to commercialize it. You should just leave it be.
Exactly.
And let it be what it is.
Exactly, because people are gonna pay for whale tours, and they're gonna go see it in its natural habitat and all that shit.
You don't have to keep it penned up and.
Exactly. Oh my god, that's such a good fucking reference. Oh man.
What's that one? Blackfish.
Blackfish. That's a crazy movie.
Honestly, that was pretty boring. I thought it was pretty boring.
I definitely didn't. I haven't been to SeaWorld since. Not like I'm going. There's no point in going there, to be honest.
Free Willy.
Free bands. But anyways, I think just in terms of what we're getting at is, some of these made in America, born in America brands, they're some of our favorites. And there's some of the ones that no matter sort of where we go in streetwear, what fads come and go, what streetwear brands are putting out, we're always going to attach ourselves to some of the ones that we have genuine history with, genuine stories with.
Yeah.
Right?
Ones that we resonate with, ones that we almost feel like a sense of pride wearing. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. It's less of the I have this Supreme item on, I feel superior.
Yeah.
It's less of that feeling and more so I have these Dickie pants on and I feel
comfortable.
I
feel secure.
Secure, exactly.
Like
You almost feel like you're in the record
books. It's like a safety blanket, or what is it called?
It's a safety blanket.
Is that what
I think that's what it's called.
Like
comfort. I don't comforter.
Safety.
It's a comforter.
Like what are those blankets that like you give to kids so they feel like
Snuggie?
secure? No, but whatever. You get them.
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I'm
I
saying.
get
Like,
what
you know
you're
I'm
saying. There's
Yeah.
just a certain story behind this type of clothing, and
Yeah.
it's something that I would hope any of our listeners would try to explore. I know it sounds kind of crazy sometimes because you see a Dickies, you see a Carhartt in your local Walmart, and you see it in your Ross and all this stuff. But if you really take the time to do the research and you know, look up the brand, see, you know, some of your famous celebrities and your idols wear this brand, there's something about it that you'll soon come to find out if you were to try it out, which is, I mean, there's no harm in trying at the end of the day.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with these pieces. Like they're going to fit in your wardrobe, whether it's like this year or 10 years from now.
Exactly.
You know
And there's something for everybody in each one of these brands that we sort of shouted out.
Yeah.
So that's super important. But at the end of the day, like we always say, especially in the first episode, you know, wear it the way you want to wear it. Don't look at us and how we wear things.
Yeah, don't
find
copy
your own
me.
personal style. Yeah,
Don't buy my steez.
That's definitely don't do that.
But anyways, I think that's
I think that was
good for episode 14.
Exactly, episode 14. We covered some of our favorite brands, the brands that we're currently into. Champion is one of the.
But I mean that was more of an example than anything. It wasn't necessarily
a deep dive.
Yeah,
maybe we'll do one of those later on down the road. We'll cover a Champion like we did last episode with Stussy. But I think that was good. I think you guys got a good grasp of some of these born in the United States brands that are still killing it nowadays, and they're still doing their best to make advancements, like a Carhartt work in progress, which is, I mean, they're doing some amazing stuff. But as always, we are your hosts of the No Chance Podcast. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe to our
comments,
SoundCloud profile episodes. Listen to all that. Tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Subscribe on the podcast app.
Do everything to get us to where do we want to go? I'm gonna go to New York.
Trying
to go to New York, right? Yeah.
Wait for what?
I don't know. Sponsor us.
Right.
Sponsor us to go to New York. We'll start a GoFundMe. If you guys really fuck with us, you probably won't. But yeah, so episode 14, No Chance Podcast. We are out. Peace.